This summer marks 5 years since the Missouri River spilled its banks, taking a huge toll on homeowners and entire towns.
Repairs are complete and many signs of the flood are gone. But for those who lived through it, the painful memories remain. Tonight, meteorologist Jim Flowers takes us back to that summer when homeowners realized their last line of defense had broken.
It was called a 500-year flood.
Wow. A lot of water, huh?
In the summer of 2011, 700 miles of the Missouri River from Montana to Missouri spilled over its banks, taking out homes and cities in its path.
Well, we left the first week of June and we got back in January 15th.
Marty Summey says he and his neighbors watched the water rise, all the time preparing for the worst.
We had a feeling that we were going to have a problem. And so that took up everybody's time, getting their houses cleaned out and everything.
The rest of that'll go overnight.
Then they got the call that everyone had been dreading.
We were over here doing a little spraying and a neighbor got a call from another neighbor, said they went into their home to get some belongings out, and when they came back out about an hour later, they had to drive through moving water. And we pretty much knew somewhere the levee broke.
Just keep the road quiet.
But this is a county road, too.
Yards turned into lakes, roads flooded and washed away, leaving homeowners to watch from afar as water slowly seeped into their houses, causing millions of dollars in damage.
We could get to the water over by the railroad tracks, and we unloaded the boat and got in it and came across. And it was windy and white caps out on the water, and they dropped me off at our deck.
As the river swelled, federal authorities and concerned citizens rushed to shore up hundreds of miles of levees.
Those people out filling sandbags and working together late at night and pumping water out of the, behind the levees that was seeping and stuff. So that's a great story about how the community came together and fought the flood, and the communications were effective and the people came together and worked. So if there's anything good out of it, is that.
The old levee is there, and it broke through here.
But it wasn't enough.
And we came back and we had this huge break in this pond.
Many private levees were breached, and the constant strain of the mighty Mo took its toll on the federal levee system.
During the flood event, we spent about $70 million reinforcing the levees. We saw seepage, we put in seepage berms.
The Army Corps of Engineers monitors more than 250 miles of federal levees from Omaha down toward Rulo. And after the water receded, nearly all of those levees had to be repaired in some way.
We had a lot of erosion, a lot of seepage, and we did have some breaches further south of here.
Some of the repairs are still ongoing, but for the most part, the levees have been rebuilt. The summer of 2011 proved to be a teaching moment for the Corps, one the Corps says better prepared them for future floods.
This event that came through, this was a new data point here. We had never seen water this high on the levees, and so we saw a lot of the issues surface, and they were able to be repaired after the 11 flood.
And that wasn't the only lesson learned that summer.
A lot of folks during 2011 said they had no idea that we were in a wet cycle, that we were approaching flood levels. So continuing that communication has been key for us.
There are still telltale signs of the flood of 2011. Trees down along the river, marks on the buildings, changes in landscape, all memories etched for a lifetime. But for the Corps, the focus is on the future.
The bad news is the flood will happen again.
Because if 2011 taught them anything, it's that the mighty Mo is a force to be reckoned with.
Excellent story, Jim. I can remember in 2011 coming in on a flight to land at Epley, and everybody on the plane was looking out their windows, and they saw just what we saw on those aerials, water everywhere, and people were wondering, how in the world are we going to land at this strip in the middle of Epley when all this water is around?
Images are incredible. You obviously covered this then. Anything that stood out as you were covering it now?
The one thing that really struck me is, or actually two things. Corps can handle it. The Corps they've got a great system in place now. There's a lot of organization, everything that goes into that. The other part of this story was that the number of people that had to move away whose houses were condemned. Places and communities where 40 to 50% of the people, their houses were condemned, they were taken down, and they did not go back. So it had a definite impact on the local communities because of that flood, and people had to move away, and they never came back. That's what I found surprising.
Sure.